Everybody, and welcome to the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board meeting for this Thursday, the 11th of May. We don't have a very big agenda, but thank you to those of you who have taken time to join us in this live stream this morning. Firstly, I'd like to introduce ourselves to you. I'm Belinda Ward, Chair of the Board and representative of the Paihia Waitangi subdivision. Roddy?
Kia ora, my name's Roddy Hapakirima. I'm the member of the board for the Kawakawa and Moerewa subdivision.
Kia ora, I'm Tyler Bamber. I'm the member of the board for the Waipapa subdivision.
And I'm Amy, one of the members for Kerikeri subdivision.
Good morning, I'm Josh Napandi and I'm the Democracy Advisor to the Community Board.
Good morning, Lane Air, Kerikeri subdivision and Deputy Chair, I think.
Morning, I'm Bruce Mills and I'm with the Whangaroa subdivision.
I'm Jane Hall. I'm from Islands-Whangaroa and represent Opua markets as well.
Thank you very much, Anne. And we have some staff here.
Forward so you can see me. Hello, my name is Catherine and I'm the Funding Advisor for Final District Council.
Thank you, Catherine.
Morena Kim Hammond, the Community Board Coordinator.
And welcome. And we also have Deputy Mayor Councillor Stratford here with us today as well. Right, moving forward, I would like to open up, who would like to offer up a karakia this morning to start us off? Any? Roddy, would you like to?
Nō tātou, tātou te tamata wairua tapu me nāni hiro pono me te māngai tautuku. I te māngai me te kawarau nā taku āroha me te mātou rana. Matua te tamata wairua tapu me nāni hiro pono me te māngai tautuku.
Good, Roddy. Right. To start us off with today, we move to a public forum session and we have Dennis Takuru here to speak to us on item 7.2 on page 29. That is the ground lease to Northland Kindergarten Association in Te Kerema Avenue, Paihia. Morena, Dennis, if you'd like to come forward and stand roughly there, that's great. And you've got 5 minutes to address us.
Dennis Takuru, here to speak on behalf of Ngāti Rahiri Hapu and the renewal of the kindergarten lease. We were not able to articulate with our hapu because of tikanga. There was 2 meetings that were scheduled, but because we had 2 funerals that come up on that date, it gave quite a hard task to be able to get and articulate a kōrero to bring from the hapu. But on behalf of the kaumātua kuia that had met and spoke on this matter, they agreed to tautoko the renewal of the lease, but we are a bit hesitant on the conditions with the renewal. But, because to us, it's going into encroach on the year 2040, and we're looking at different avenues for that time. So we just want to maybe see looking at the 15-year lease renewal, the conditions after that one to be maybe scaled down to a 5-year lease to coincide with 2040 indication from the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. No more public speakers. We'll move on. Item 6, confirmation of the previous minutes on page 8. Item 6.1, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of April 2023 are a true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Lane. A seconder? Tyler? Any alterations or amendments to those minutes? No? Put it to the vote. Moved Lane, seconded Tyler. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 7.2. Page 29. Oh, sorry, 7.1. I'm skipping page 17. This is our chairperson and members' reports. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the reports from Chairperson Belinda Ward, members Jane Hindle, Bruce Mills, Amy Slack and Tyler Bamber. Do I have a mover? Tyler, seconder. Thank you, Jane. I'll take mine as read. Any questions there? So moving on, Jane. Any questions for Jane? Anne.
Madam Chair, I enjoyed Jane's report. Just would like to respond to a couple of things that she's raised. Maramaku Road, community regarding a more strategic approach to roading, which requires issues need to be included in progress. The narrow of the contract that we have in regard to maintenance of our roads, not an annual long-term process. In fact, is a application to Waka to compete with the National Land Transport Fund the money to give effect to the contract. So putting money into the long-term plan won't address that specific issue. But I just wanted to give you some comfort that we are very aware of all the tabling issues across the network. As an aside, I roll this out all the time. I tell people our roading network is 2,509 kilometres long. And I don't know if people actually appreciate just how long that is. So I went onto Google the other day and I said, how long is 2,509 kilometres in New Zealand, to give you some context? So I would, if I left a car in my car from Pickering, I could drive all the way to Bluff and turn around and get back as far as Temuka before I driven 2,509 kilometres.
Wow.
Equally, if there was a road to Sydney, I could drive to Sydney. So I just wanted to give you a wee bit of a snapshot that, yes, we're very alive to challenges that we have on our roading network, but the reality is there's only 31,000 ratepayers in the district, and we have to apply to Waka Kotahi, and Waka Kotahi get 13 regional land transport plans, and they have to allocate from a balanced budget. That's the law. So when they run out of money, that's if they run out of money. So they moderate the contract, moderate the money that they give to us for the implementation of the contract. So I just want to give you some comfort that we nationally, there are a lot of conversations that are happening, that we are aware that the assets are being sweated to the point of no return, and it is not sustainable. But that is the conversation that Ellie will hope that helps.
I think the frustration is that they see it's the fancy a more realistic plan that it's you know, okay, in 5 years' time we will do this, and it can be more cost effective.
And
the ad hoc approach that is being tried.
I've been to so many roading workshops and conferences on this, and the reality is that a road is on a bell curve. So we will fix it, and the road will, it will get worse and worse and worse and worse. We'll patch it and patch it and patch it. We'll get to the point of intervention, and then we fix it, and it rinse, falls, repeat. So yes, I absolutely hear you, and I agree with you. And I just want to let you know that it's not for a lack of trying to change the conversation nationally. We will get there. The other one I wanted to just quickly touch on was Rafferty Road Steel. So we
Keeping it on there so people don't lose sight of it.
No, they won't lose sight of it. We considered the tourism infrastructure fund application at council at the last meeting. There was an application in there to put in request for funding for, I'm gonna forget the name of it now, I'm really sorry. Kelly, can you help me out? Bayside Beach Road. The NGA had said that this is the road that comes out as the #1 priority on our dust matrix at the moment. Councillors felt that it was time to go back and revisit the dust matrix because they're not sure where all the measurables are giving the outcome that they wish to see. So that project was parked and they're going to go and have a workshop with the matrix and get governance comfort is the word that I'm looking for. That's the projects that we are putting up are the ones that come out at the top of the bucket. In the unsealed network, I did the same equation. I got in my little car at Cape Reinga and I drove as far as Timaru. We have 1,600 kilometres of unsealed network and everybody thinks that their road is the worst, quite rightly. So council have to make a decision within a very small budget that if we've got 1,600 kilometres of road, are we sealing the right bit and not the squeaky wheel? So hence the development of the matrix was to give us a tool to put an evaluative lens over where we can spend our very precious resources. And because the matrix was originally my idea, I was really keen at the beginning that there would be no road names in the matrix. That was really important to me. That the minute you start to populate it with road names, if your road's not there, the matrix is flawed. If your road isn't there, the matrix isn't flawed. So I wanted to get everybody on board with the idea that let's come up with a suite of objectives and a suite of measurements that is free from political interventions, so we make sure that we're doing the right job at the right time in the right place. So that's just where I wanted to go with that. The other one, we talked about the Russell Sports Hub. I just wanted, this is still, I'm going to be a bit provocative because I had this community conversation with my chief executive before he left. Oh, and just on that, our chief executive was instrumental in the rescue and recovery operation at the Abbey Cave yesterday. And I don't know that that's recognised, that he was called upon as an urban search and rescue engineer to go down there. And I don't know that he oversaw the rescue process, but he was certainly the guy who went down there and said, this is what we can do, this is what we need. I just really don't think that he is one of the hundreds of community heroes who turned out for this really tragic event. Sorry, I just jumped down a really old one. One of the conversations that we had fairly recently was requests coming through from community boards for council resources for council money. And he wanted to have this conversation with the community boards before he left there. The community boards are given a budget to do within the delegation of things that he wants. Everything else needs to go through the annual plan or the long-term plan process or triaging. So he was just a bit concerned that some of the resolutions coming through were requesting staff resources or staff money outside of that existing thing. And he just wanted to be reinterested in.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
live in hope that it might slip through. Yes. The comment I was making though, that is that each there is a project that is completed, then the correct process is to notify the person to give them an opportunity to visit to the annual plan. What we're finding is these in 2 years where the RFS has been closed, the work has been done, no discussion whether it should go into the annual plan for next year or not, or prioritised against other commitments. And so the frustration was this sort of, in good faith, keep putting forward this RFS. And annual plan. Well, how do we get it to the annual plan? How do we have the conversation where we can ask for it to go in the annual plan and be told, well, I'm sorry, it can't be done, so give up on it. I mean,
Is there a specific project you've got in mind with this? Madam Chair, if I could just explore it.
Yeah, I think I hear where Jane's going, and it's down that RFS close off, which we did on the previous board. And in fairness to our new board members, I think this item should be taken to the combined community board workshop so that all three boards get to hear how and why the process is done the way it is, and why things are left sometimes hanging in limbo and never closed off. I think it's really important that we get an understanding.
And then how do we move it into the bigger plan if it seems to be important?
Yeah, it may be that it's come to a legal end. There's been a legal ruling on it. There's many reasons why things end up going in different directions. But I hear you. You want feedback on
these yellow lines.
You want
parking
specifics.
lines. You know, you can't just keep saying, "Oh, we've got nothing to do it."
No,
close the RFS.
No.
Not tell me. Can we put some next to it? One second.
It's a big conversation, and Madam Chair's suggestion is absolutely correct.
yes, it's work that's not getting done, and it's responses to RFSs that are falling into a black hole, or you're not satisfied with the outcome. You don't get enough information to give feedback to the resident or ratepayer and resolve the issue or placate them. So we will take that to combined community board workshop and get staff to give some examples of Kim's noting that of why RFSs and perhaps communicate better with us as to why, so we can go back a reason why rather than just leaving it hanging.
But if it needs budget to go into next year's plan, then we need to put it forward, even if it's not accepted. We need to be put in the position to say, well, we think this is important.
Or the resident needs to submit to that, and we can also note for our long-term plan. Remember, if it's not in the long-term plan, it doesn't go in the annual plan. So these are things we can cover I think it'd be really good to cover that in the workshop. Yes.
The RFS system is never meant to replace scheduling. I mean, I'm presuming that the council does not wait for us to raise an RFS to do maintenance. Right. So
Yeah.
I've always struggled sometimes between how we control what maintenance schedule is or whatever else. I know the matrix for footpaths and various other things. But I sometimes think we get a little bit confused between an RFS and what is basic scheduled maintenance on road or footpath or whatever else. Not to anyway decorate RFSs. The other question I'd like to ask, just to refresh my memory, roads are counted as an asset for the council? So therefore they're depreciated.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's, I'm pretty sure we don't appreciate it. And she does need my memory on it. We don't, we had a very big conversation around appreciation in last term. It was changed. I'm not confident my answer at this point.
I struggle with how we fund fares for customers.
Oh, that keeps me awake.
I'm sure. And
I think we all struggle with that one.
We do, but it seems to me that if it was in fact depreciated, then at least I would have a problem. So it's terminology here that could be used for maintenance, and I don't envy the council project of the roads and streets or anything else, but maybe we just needed that schedule. That's my heart.
It was a very productive conversation. I think we can move forward and resolve within Jane's report here. Any further questions for Jane? Right, then we'll move on to Bruce. Questions for Bruce?
Was in here, this is Chicago, my favourite to get.
The Kyo Road, the walk road.
The walk. Yeah. According to the design yesterday, and so now things are going on pretty well to like in June. So we're a little bit wrong with that. The engineers have come up with that these foundations need to be on each side, 20 metres into the ground. Start looking at the ceilings here. Imagine 20 metres into the ground. Even engineers, I mean, the earthquake. So this should be able to walk across the bridge. There won't be any other buildings in Kyo if you get an earthquake like that.
Tables. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering whether we might be able to strike the water. But isn't that ludicrous how things are going? It's the cost it's been. Yeah.
Huge. And you.
My colleagues some comfort that we now have a new day's plant that's named with G. He's picking up all of these projects. So it'd be really good if you could connect with him because that's what's never meant to be. A bridge of such structural integrity that it would survive, you know, anything. So it was meant to be a pedestrian approach to ensure public safety. That was all of the big ones. So I'm not an engineer, I'm not a project manager. That's Greg's job. I was strongly encouraged Bruce to get in touch with him. Yeah.
He's got to put his name to that too, doesn't he, these days? It's universally liable if you're an engineer designing things, so. But what to be sure with the watch table and IO. Anyway, thank you for that bit of information, Bruce, very interesting. Any questions for Bruce on this report? No, get off scot free. We've got Amy. Anything you wanted to highlight, Amy, or any questions for Amy? Anne? Yeah. Go, Anne. You're on a roll today.
Oyster farm at OPO's Day, maybe that's a long history.
Is that, yeah, I
Yes.
was getting it.
Yeah, that is going to require, obviously from bylaw intervention.
Yeah.
So that will be a joint community board council, deliverable outcomes. I just wanted to let you know that it certainly is well known to me.
Yeah, there's quite a history there.
Yeah, I had a bit of a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Excellent.
real core thing that needs to be done there, Madam Chair, is at some point commercial operations should either be providing and significant amounts of money for use of the public.
Okay. Well, we can't predict any outcomes there, but we will be involved on the fringes in the conversation as we move forward.
Yeah.
Any questions for Amy?
Oh, yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Mike said, are they doing this in Paracarry or everything elsewhere in the building?
Where did we get the email from?
Me.
Yeah.
Through the chair, so my team contacted Councillor Court to donate. Currently, they are just doing in the Kirikiri area, and then as we go, they may expand out. So I did also send it to the email to Bruce and Tyler, I think, so that once we have done this year's Kirikiris, we could then look at other areas as well.
Thanks.
Would you know, I should know, how far out does the bus network go?
So for the Kirikiri schools, I know for my end, it's the chicken stop, and then they transfer buses for those, also halfway between Tako Bay and Matori Bay turnoff. And then they transfer buses and that becomes like the Kaio school area. In terms of going down, I think I also CC'd you in as well, so that you could then look at the next round.
That bus network is made up of the schools.
Mm.
Buses, it's
Like
like
a Neil, because he was.
Yeah.
Anne can probably shine some light on that for us, but it is quite an involved process as to the placement and sites, bearing in mind that it does involve our road and network.
So we did get the list back from the current school bus providers who meet with the principals of the schools on a regular basis. So the schools and the bus providers came up with a list who I have provided to NTA, so that NTA can do site checks. And then once we've got that list approved, it'll be passed to Mairiti and Waipapa.
So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into the
Yes,
process.
I haven't heard anything back.
Yes, so we can't just, it's great, and it'll be really nice to take up that offer to get, bus shelters and sheds, especially with winter coming.
Mm.
I know
I
that
just wanted to put one outside the new. Yeah.
the new Bunnings,
Yeah.
largest in the southern hemisphere, I hear. Okay, so they will identify these sites and then they will liaise with NTA and do site visits.
Yep, so we've had the sites identified.
Will they come-
NTA is currently
will
doing
they come?
checks.
All those reports.
More
come
than
to the
likely
board, so
not,
we're
no.
aware?
I can provide feedback to you, but
That's
it won't
fair
need to
enough.
come through as a report.
That would be great. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, if I can add to it though, we had a shelter which I thought was very appropriately placed on Jane Street. It's come down, but one of the neighbours asked for it to be moved because there's so much antisocial behaviour going on. So, that's the way. She asked for it to be, now the kids stand out there. They're terrible.
We have experienced NIMBYism in the past, and we also have removed or relocated bus shelters over the years. So it would have to be determined whether there are enough grounds to actually relocate that bus shelter. I mean, they're not there for a long period of time while they're waiting. And I think some people just don't like things happening outside the boundaries of their properties and their neighbourhood. And you're seeing quite a bit of that lately.
I think it's the fact it wasn't the school kids.
Yeah, that's very.
Later on.
Oh, okay, different story.
Yep.
Mm. Right, okay. Happy with that, Amy? Right, moving on, we have last report, Tyler. Questions for Tyler? Anything you wanted to highlight? No? Right, we'll take that as read. So moving back to the recommendation, moved by Tyler, seconded by Jane, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the reports from Chairperson Belinda Ward, members Jane Hingel, Bruce Mills, Amy Slack and Tyler Bamber. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Next item 7.2, ground lease to Northland Kindergarten Association, Te Kemaro Avenue, Paihia, page 29. We have the report writer, the author Kay Meekins, online. Would you like to, I'll put the recommendation, and then would you like to speak to this first, Kay?
No, not necessarily.
Sorry, I'm just struggling to hear you. Hang on a moment, Kay. You're here just to answer questions, or would you like to speak to the report?
No, I think the report is, I'm getting feedback, sorry. The report is self-explanatory. I think I'll just answer questions.
Thank you, Kay. Right, I'll put the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board recommends to the Whanau District Council acting under delegation and pursuant to Section 61 Reserves Act 1977, a new ground lease be issued to Te Kura, this is on to challenge me, Ko Honga Tupu o Te Tai Tokerau Northern Kindergarten Association Incorporated over the local purpose community activities reserve being approximately 900 square metres of lot 40 DP 43842, held in New Zealand Gazette 2002 page 21 and vested in Whanau District Council on DP 43842 as a local purpose reserve. The terms of the proposed lease shall be the term 12 years with 3 + 3 + 3 + 3. Rental as per Far North District Council fees and charges schedule for a community lease, which is $113 plus GST for the year 2022 to 23 and reviewed annually in conjunction with the Far North District Council fees and charges schedule. B, with further conditions negotiated and agreed upon by the Group Manager Delivery and Operations of Te Kura Kohanga Topu o Te Tautokura, Northern Kindergarten Association Incorporated. Do I have a mover?
Get it on the table.
Thank you. Seconder? Is that you, Anne? Is that you, Anne? Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Move Lane, seconded Anne to get this on the table. As mover Lane, would you have any discussion?
No, I'd just like to confirm though with the lady online. Obviously, the only access to that is through the alleyway. Is that a common space with Scout Hall or?
It's part of the reserve, community reserve access, and they do share that space with the Paihia Scouts group. And the access and the parking area is maintained by the two lessees. Is that what you're meaning? That access way just up the driveway, as shown in the picture attached?
Into still the only access to that?
Yes.
Yes, it is the only access, yeah.
Anne, as seconder, do you have any queries? Any other questions or comments? We have the report writer there.
These scouts, are they on a separate leaf?
This is, yes,
It's
this
got a
is,
leaf area which is shown, which is a different part of the Sea Scout. So what's the status of the Sea Scouts?
we are only dealing today with the leased area for the kindergarten. The Scouts, you'll note in the staff assessment report, were contacted and informed of this, and they have yet to respond. And at the time that this report was put together, they had not received any communication from the Scouts. Is that correct, Kay?
Yes, that's correct.
They're also leasing land from council.
Yes.
It's a local purpose reserve.
Yeah.
Bruce, any questions? Sorry, Jane.
So it comes in within that 2014 timeline, because it's only 12-year lease. 3.3.
The request was for a 15-year lease with another 15, and after feedback on page 33, staff had taken that into consideration and have submitted term 12 with rolling over every triennial. Yeah.
So that meets the feedback.
Any more questions? Okay. Bruce, did you have anything? Amy? Paula? Roddy? So the process with this recommendation, once we put it to the vote, will be that it will go through to council agenda. You'll see in the staff assessment report, in the body of the report, this has actually come to us because it's a reserve and that falls under our delegation. So this will go to council and the decision will be made at council, and anybody wanting further comment or input into that can request a delegation when that comes on the council agenda and speak to it prior to the voting of councillors at the table in Kaikohe. Okay. Right, so with there being no further questions, this is moved by Lane, seconded by Anne. I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in support? Against? Carried. Right, moving on to the project funding reports, page 34. Item 7.3, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the project reports received from all A, Bald Angels Rainbow Rangatahi, B, Far North Land Search and Rescue, C, Artaka Thompson Youth Sailing Trust, and D, Te Aruhareka o Ngāti Hine Festival. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Bruce? Thank you, Lane. Any discussion around these reports?
I just would say with the Artaka Thompson,
Yes.
it's really awesome to see, you know, a personal report, but I don't think we need to have the students' names, maybe. It's a bit,
I actually found it really,
I think it's, you know, we could just cut out their details just for privacy.
It's
I find
only-
that a little bit strange.
it's only in the additional information, I think, isn't it? Or was it in both? I think it's
Yeah,
in-
but still, even we don't.
it's not in the public arena.
Yeah,
I found it helpful because it did raise questions for me as to how we gauge the needs and suitabilities of the selection process of the children. If you happen to know the children, in this instance I do, and it was my understanding that the children selected would be from backgrounds where they would never have an opportunity to have an experience like this, which is something we can discuss as a committee outside of this in our, but I hear what you're saying.
you know, totally agree with that, but I just don't think we need to know who they are. And
No.
I think it's great to have that letter from them, but we don't.
My query
you know,
around
and you're like,
that,
oh, and now I know they're, you know,
yes,
maybe
yeah, who they are,
Yeah.
yes.
it's nothing big, but I just think
No, which can or cannot be. I mean, I think it's a real positive thing in the fact that they have learned from this and added to their skills and,
there's nothing to do with that.
no,
It's
privacy.
Yeah.
Privacy, yeah. Something we'll take on
Yeah.
board. Thank you, Kim. Any other questions before I comment on these reports?
Yeah, just go. At one,
Yes.
where's the, not used all these funds, the requesting the funds roll over to the.
Is this the Rainbow Rangatahi one? Yes, we'll deal with that when we come to the funding applications in the next one. Thanks, Jodie. My query around this was actually in relation to when if you look at your additional papers, when we actually fund people, we request acknowledgement from Community Board and we Catherine forwards our Community Board logo, which differs from Council's logo. And over the years, we've always said, well, hang on a minute, Council get acknowledgement for support often, but Community Board doesn't. And we feel that we should because we are part of Council but separate. We have a different logo. We fund at Flax Roots level and we make a difference in communities in a short space of time. And I feel that part of the funding, where possible, it's not always possible to acknowledge, physically acknowledge our logo or the Community Board. But I'd just like to draw you to the additional information sections here in page 24. We had Rainbow Rangatahi did acknowledge the Community Board. Then if we go to Whānau Search and Rescue, I actually couldn't find any acknowledgement at all. And in actual fact, the page requesting how you acknowledge the Community Board had actually been omitted, which is interesting. And then when it comes to the Tucker Thompson, I note your comments, Amy, about the two children's letters, but when I read them, I took it as a cyclist-styled thank you. There's no acknowledgement actually to the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board, or the Community Board is not mentioned. And I just think it's really important because how do these, in this instance, children, how do they learn how they got there, where that money came from, to help give them that experience. So, and what we do, and perhaps open doors for, dinner time conversation as to, did you know that we have a Community Board and that you can actually apply to them for funding? So I felt very, we're quite often, it's a section, and Catherine may or may not agree with me, it's quite a section that's quite often glossed over or brushed off as, we'll just thank everybody. So that's something I'd like to point out. And again, we had with the Ngāti Hine Festival, I noted some amazing, great report, amazing pictures. We love the pictures, and we can see that our councillors were there, but I didn't see any acknowledgement in any of the pictures to the community board logo. But over and above that, the MPs and councillors were thanked. It was noted that for their presence. I'm sure, Roddy, you probably attended, but I just feel, without labouring the point, that this is ratepayer money, and we do have an involvement. And if we're going to continue to boost communities and assist in events and opportunities, that it's just a way of educating people in the communities of actually what we do, and to get the acknowledgement, because in some of these cases, you know, we're giving substantial amounts of money. We get a small budget, and if we give $5,000 or $10,000, that's a lot of money. You know, even 1,000 can be a lot to the ladies in the knitting group because it buys all their wool. So we do, although we get, it sounds like I'm sort of labouring the point, but although we do get acknowledged, we don't get directly acknowledged as a community board. So I'm leaving that with you, Catherine, to actually encourage people to acknowledge the community board and to educate the recipients as to where the money actually comes from. It's not.
Share, we had the same problem last month.
Yes.
People who put in their form. We're sorry, we didn't acknowledge them.
Yes.
It really wasn't acceptable.
No. And we do get acknowledged in social media sites and things, that's fine. And not everybody, you know, follows those sites, but at least there is acknowledgement there. But I would like to see our logo being used more and just a little bit more awareness out there.
So sorry, is our logo just the same except all green?
It's
green.
different colour.
It's green.
Yeah.
Maybe
We've had the discussion. That
slightly
could go
different
to
logo, maybe.
Can we add that to the Combined Community Board workshop, Kim? Because this has popped up in the past.
It's probably more just a general knowledge.
Yes.
Because I've heard of it until.
Thanks, Amy. And yes, often our logo is used to thank us, but the council logo is used and they thank council. So we're actually not in the fold at all. And I'm not nitpicking. I just took that opportunity to bring that up while we were discussing the application funding.
Just on that note, I just want to acknowledge Aguerika, because they did while on stage acknowledge the board. And
I'm sure, Roddy, a lot of that does go down. Yeah, but we provide our logo and it's nice to see it. You know, you see a lot of stalls everywhere, but you never see our, when I say never, you do see it, but not very often. So yes, we are aware that, and I'm sure people that attended, I mean, that was very well attended. You know, yeah. So on that, just another topic of conversation, perhaps we could have our logo that is slightly,
get some more, do some more social media about what community boards are.
Yes. Okay. So that was moved by Bruce, seconded by Lane. I'll put that to the vote. All those in support? Against? Carried. So 7.4, page 44 is our funding applications. I'll just take these two separately. I'll move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves a sum of $1,600 plus GST if applicable, be paid from the board's community fund account to our Kirikiri Charitable Community Trust for the cost of hosting the 2023 Northland Chess Championship to meet the following community outcomes: communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable, proud, vibrant communities. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Jane. As mover, I don't have anything to discuss other than you'll note that they requested on page 45 $2,000 and the recommendation is for $1,600, which is removing the request for catering and cash prizes.
Yeah, been a long time since I've read your policy. Is it a rule that the board does not?
rules about compliance, it's just a general.
No, it's not. Catherine, do you want to speak to that? We actually, yeah,
But all three boards have as a rule of thumb, so they do not want to cover catering for kind, as they do not believe it's revenues. But we've just carried it.
and yet in saying that we have done,
As our policy.
yeah.
Can I be sympathetic? $100.
Yeah.
Very little. It's entirely voluntary and it's doing, we can see from these pretty incredible writing for the community. I think it would be gracious about $2,000. When I think about how successful the last championship was, engaging the picture of the young and the old at the table and how many people coming and contribution into the economy. I would think it's beautiful share an event that we actually run.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because we gave 2,000 last time. Just kind of a bit. Let's maybe just give them another 400 for the venue or the seat, the table hire, or if we don't want to fund.
Budget is not because it's sort of half amount. So you could still write in the $2,000, just say it's not
Yeah.
cash price, is there to use it towards the reserve.
Yeah.
That's not a.
Yeah. It's still costing about 8,000 total, so still well under 50%.
And also just through the chair, I'd like to add, if I remember rightly, they were one of the groups that was very good at yeah, acknowledging the community board last time around.
Yeah.
So
True.
I think in this case that they probably aren't aware of the sort of rule of thumb maybe in terms of the
No.
cash prizes and the
Yeah.
catering, yeah.
And perhaps also, I guess it's something, Catherine, also to take on board, that perhaps from a board perspective, the recommendations should be for the amount requested with a note that should we, like to consider tagging that the money is not spent on turn it around to a positive rather than, like Anne said, taking a small amount of money when it's actually a small funding request. So any other discussion around?
I mean, as secondary, I'd just like to note that this was one of the things that was inclusive of a different group of people. And that's the thing I particularly like about it, because we do have all of the same stuff coming through, but just it's a different demographic. So it's nice to be inclusive of the segment of that.
No more discussion. I'm happy to put that amendment moved by Anne, seconded by Amy to fund approve the sum of $2,000 plus GST if applicable.
That's with the.
As a mover, do you want notation?
If the mover and the seconder are happy with the amount, then we can just change the recommendation.
I'm happy, Jane, if you're happy,
Yes,
as seconder.
the after, please.
Yep. Right. Lane's question is, do we want to include a fortnight note so that money is not spent on catering or cash prizes?
That just maintains our integrity of the market.
Okay. So it'd be $2,000 and we're just going to, for the cost of hosting. Yes, and we're just going and request that the money not be spent on catering and cash prizes.
The cost of hosting, excluding catering and cash. Do you want to read this out?
I'll read that recommendation out again, just for clarity, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa approves the sum of $2,000 plus GST if applicable, be paid from the board's community fund account to our Kitty Kitty Charitable Community Trust for the costs of hosting, excluding catering and cash prizes, the 2023 Northland Chess Championship. I've moved, Jane seconded, there's no further discussion, I'll put that to the vote. Those in support? Yes. Carried. Thank you. Now, the next item, recommendations that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves the remaining funding grant at the meeting of May 2022 to Bald Angels Charitable Trust for the establishment of a safe space for Rainbow Rangatahi be retained, gosh, struggling with my speech today, by Bald Angels to continue the development and maintenance of the space for the 2023-2024 financial year. Do I have a mover to get this on the table? Thank you, Bruce. Seconder? Amy? Just before we have a discussion around this, I would just like to foreshadow that an amendment that I would like to let this lie on the table until we actually receive a funding application at our next meeting. The reason being the money was given to establish a safe space, which I believe has been done. I'm not sure where it is. And the money, therefore, the balance of funds should come back with a fresh application to the board and be spoken to because it's over $3,000 and they wish to reapply those funds toward operating expenses, which is a whole separate issue compared to the establishment of the. Happy to open the floor for discussion on this one. Bruce, move as mover.
Yes, it does, it makes sense. We do have a policy. That's
Amy, your seconder, do you want to speak to that?
I don't know, it's just,
Well, we can't
they seem to say they were gonna, it's for development and maintenance, so we could maybe just clarify what if they're adding any more to that space, but I know that it's growing because I know I have a bit of involvement with them and they need more space and more things, and didn't they want to add it to the butterfly?
No,
maybe?
that was a separate application. So the reasoning behind letting it lie on the table to give them the opportunity to come back and speak to it is that the original application was actually to create the space, the safe space, which they have done, and now they want to spend the money. If you look at page 45 in the letter, they want to actually, so we haven't actually received a funding application for the balance of funds. So the normal procedure would be to actually give back the balance of funds and reapply for specific use of, it may or may not be the same amount, might be more, might be less, but anybody is welcome to apply to us for funds so they can come back with an application and come and speak to it.
But it says that they want to use them on the Rainbow Angel Wing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was the, sorry, through the chair, that was the original application, Angel Wings project.
Yes.
Has been.
They've since been to us for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this almost crosses over, doesn't it?
Well, they're separate applications is what I'm saying to you. Lane.
As supportive as I am of Bald Angels, we really have a policy and a procedure. You apply, you spend the money, and on what you tell us you're going to do. If you don't spend that amount of money, then it comes back. And as much as I applaud what they're doing and will support them now and in the future, I really believe that we must maintain our process. And that money's got to come back and they'll reapply.
Thank you. I had Anne and then Tyler.
It's really just repeating, Madam Chair, I'm going to come in and thank you that when you're spending public, there needs to be a very clear and transparent process. So the merits of Bald Angel front and back in time. That a person who's applying to funds for council from the public who's in must be a application, there must be a financial reconciliation, must be a report, and it must be a separate fund. So for those reasons, I can't see. I think they could be in the separate application, be transparent. And I know that's a process, and it might just feel like my box. But when we get audited by the Auditor General and if we're not following the process, we can get an evidence.
Thank you, Anne. Amy,
Yeah, no, good to hear both sides, and I understand.
sorry, was it Amy or Tyler?
Sorry.
I was probably just going to say something similar to Anne.
Yes.
Maybe not so articulately, but like we can't get lost with who the applicant is,
Yes,
despite all the
exactly.
good they
Yeah.
do. We've got to process this thing too.
Yeah.
Probably the outcome's going to remain the same.
Yeah, well, we can't predetermine that either.
That's true,
They'll
yeah.
make an application, and because of the amount, will request them to come and speak to it. And also gives them clarification as to where we're coming from. And we don't know how much that application will be for until we receive it. Roddy.
Just before you go on, I actually met with these incredibly young people. Some of the facilitators, we spent hours down there, and we did a little workshop. I think these people are most probably the most unappreciated people in our communities, the most unrecognized people in our community. I'm not speaking for everyone's community, I am for mine. And inside here, I see that there's what I done was I came and said, I want to know what your aspirations for your group was. No, and I don't want you to tell me straight away. I want you to I gave them more pains. Now I asked them to go away and think about what they wanted. And then I got them to turn around and write them down. And then I got them to prioritize them. You'll find that in some of them. And if you have a look in there, there's still some people that seek place.
Yeah.
So we can't really say they've found their safe place because them themselves will see they haven't found it. And what I did is they not only based themselves in Kiri, they're starting to move around. This means they have marriage fees. In this case, when they had to pay use people on that. I'm not saying that we breach the process, but I think these are the things that we have to take into consideration when we do accept the application. Because to be honest, when I look at these people, I mean, the things they ask you, the things that I take for granted. Simple getting a doctor and having someone understand what you're going through. Yeah. You say, as part of, we do represent our communities. And I think that when it comes to special groups like this, there's certain things that we have to take into consideration. But like I said, as been pointed out by everyone, there is a process.
Yeah.
And I think in order to preserve the integrity of the board, we need to stick to that process. That's what I wanted to say. About it.
Good, Roddy. If there's no more questions or discussion around this, I'm going to move that we let, Bruce, if you're happy, and Amy, as the original mover and seconder, that we let this lie on the table until a funding application is received at our next meeting.
I can move over. If I think the process is but at the same time, we should change another funding.
To decline it instead of lie on the table until we receive a fresh application.
I'm on the table, doesn't address the concerns of the team.
Thank you.
I know that's delivered at least, but
It's not, and through the chair, you know that I know Teresa quite well, for a large number of years, and I had a very direct conversation with her. That was one. This was the other, was involved with the wings thing, and she actually understands it. But I know that
Paperwork.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. this does raise another issue, Madam Chair, that I would just for my colleagues put at the table. Once again, we fund something, we build something, and then we don't look at what the operational costs are beyond that. And we just do this time and time again, and so the people, I'm not sure how we solve that problem. It's the intent. But I would agree. I just think we have to decline it, ask for money, and then they know that we will favourably look at a new application.
Madam Chair, they already received funding for projects. They don't know how much of that then is spent either, so it's appropriate to
Yes.
put another application once they know where they're at.
Each project should require a different application. In the case of keeping the money and using it to something else. Right, so the correct processes, can we just move to understanding orders? Can we just move to decline this recommendation, or is that a direct negative?
No, it's not. You share it as an option in your report. So you've got three options: to fully fund, to partially fund, or option 3 is to decline.
Thank you, Kim. Right, so Bruce, are you happy to move to decline the funding application as the original mover and Amy as seconder? Okay, so I'll put that to the vote. All those in support? Against? Carried, thank you. And I'm sure Bush Telegraph will get through to Therese that how and why we dealt with that application in the way in which we did.
I'll probably get my
Thank you.
You can
Just to confirm, so you removed your foreshadow. You removed your foreshadow, didn't you?
Yes. Thank you. Right, so item 8.1, page 56. Statement of Community Board Fund Account as at 31st of March 2023, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board receives the report entitled Statement of the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Community Fund Account as at 31st March 2023. Do I have a mover? Bruce, thank you. And second. We have Catherine here. Don't have second, but we have your note in your additional information on page 1. Got a magnifying glass if you need it. You actually have our actual current community grant fund balance, and as you're all aware, we allocated the balance of our placemaking fund at our last meeting to our committee. Any discussion around that recommendation? I'll put it to the vote. Anne? Yes.
Is there to be some significant sums of money that have been sitting there that have not been served as funded? Typically, I can see procurement concept drawings and now 93%. It looks like it was first approved in February last year.
Yes.
And then the second funding application reconfirmed in June last year. And I'm sure it's progressing, but I would have anticipated there would have been repayments at the time. I'm not understanding.
No, that is actually from our placemaking fund.
Yes.
And the first expressions of interest within the community were called some time ago. I can't give you a date on that. It's been a very, very slow process. We've had an on-site, one or two on-site meetings and walked the Strand. Unfortunately, going into post-election, and we had the COVID mess, then we had the elections, and then going into the summer in December, we lost the staff member leading this. So we're not able to procure, and we were at the point of looking to hold public meetings and procure. So we've come a little bit unstuck with staffing issues over this project, and it involves quite a number of parties because it's the Strand and Russell.
I just think it might be beneficial that we're adding more work for.
To get a progress
Staff.
report?
That we had something that's sitting there. So I'm gonna pick an arbitrary figure, 12 months.
Yeah.
There's an explanation why that
Yes.
why that's and I'm just still sitting there. But the next one down is orangutan other associations. Was it called the BBTV? That was approved in the March last. Still sitting. So just it's a sentence. Give us comfort that these are still progressing.
Thanks, Anne, and it is something that we have been discussing, and because we don't have to receive reports until projects are finished under the policy, I would like to see some progress reports when things, particularly if they go over a financial year or into a new council, because things can easily get lost or are not easy for you to track or to understand where they're at. The Rangatani Residents Association, as I understand it, Catherine, you've been having great difficulty contacting.
Not answering the emails that have Lane and second.
We're thinking the person responsible for the application may have either moved away or changed their email address, and it's a case of contacting something for Lane to follow up if and Catherine combined.
That's one that I've been trying to get hold of them for quite some time
Yes.
now, but I don't have any other contact
I probably,
for them. And I think Lane at the last meeting said he had one.
I do.
Yes.
So if any of you know anyone in the Rangatani Residents Association, please approach them and just ask where they were at. I was wondering if they were having difficulty, and because their camera, their original site was actually on the road, quite close, wasn't it, to the road seal?
I think with some of these items, Madam Chair, it's driven by one or two people. And with all good intentions in the world, and then they either move, leave, or get other priorities in life. And it died on mine. But I do have a contact that I shall. We have a break. I will make that clear.
Thank you. But yes, we are chasing a lot of these things up with our end of financial year in sight, 30th of June, just to see where things are at and to get progress reports really. A lot of things were held up during COVID, and there are other things, so people weren't able to have public meetings the same, and a lot of people didn't have access to Skyping or Teams meetings in the public arena. So yeah, we have a number to address over the next month or two.
But carry on. And there seems to be, we put a lot of money into Mirror and Mariah for really good reason.
Yes.
Not quite sure why there's a balance of $60.
Yes.
Odd. I just think there's only 4 here. I just think it's a little tidy up. I know that you probably do, but the agenda would be.
There is actually a lot more than 4 then, but thank you for picking on those 4. There are a number of others that we're aware of that there's a few that we haven't had progress reports on. And we need to follow up as to whether community meetings are actually being held. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be now that we're back in full swing. So we'll have a tidy up over the next month before the end of the financial year. Anything else in there anybody would like to talk to while we've got Catherine in the room? Let's pick on Catherine Day. No, it's not Catherine's report, but she does know we're having dealt with the funding applications, most of these in and out. She has a pretty good handle on where they're all at. If there's no further discussion, Bruce moved, Lane seconded. I'll put this to the vote. All those in support? Against? Carried. Right, and our final item here is our action sheet, which I have to say, well done everybody for progress on this. First up, we have the recommendation that the Bay of Islands off-leash dog park, well, that's in hand with Jeanette England. We've just left that there. Do we want to leave that on there?
No, that was just to update you all. That's
An
we'll be
update?
having it. We'll be taking it off there.
Okay, so that'll be coming off. Likewise, the Fens, the lease at Taupo Bay Road, I should say. That's going on the 1st of June to council meeting, so that will more than likely come off our June agenda.
Correct.
And the only one left would be Cherry Park House Lane. Amy. Sorry, I'm thinking lights, but they've gone. They've gone.
Lights,
They've gone.
done the lights.
I guess, yeah, I just went to their AGM on Monday, well, I just caught the end of it, but they're just waiting on council really to see what the plan is for Cherry Park House, and I don't know. So I had messaged Darren,
Yes.
and there hasn't been much progress since the end of last year, so I guess it can be discussed further with, I need to talk to you. And,
We need to leave that
Yeah.
one there. That's definitely a work in progress. It will be slow.
Yeah.
But we have a large number of user groups there that we need to consider their fate moving forward, because they have to be relocated. We have to find premises and options. So it's going to take time. We're not just going to say, you'll go on this building. It's not safe and can't be used anymore. Ultimately, they are aware that premises will probably cease to exist, and I'm sure some of them have preferences as to where they'd like to go and who they would like to join with. And I think we can see in the future opportunities around particularly the wider Kirikiri community. There's a few changes going on, so. The building, there has been, it wasn't safe. No, there's a lot of work has been done to bring it up to a reasonable code, and a lot of concern still over the kiln in particular. So, yeah.
I'm glad I was here. Just thought maybe around other building.
Well, yeah. It's as safe as it can be, shall we say, at this stage for continued use. But council staff are working on and have done most of the things to comply with the basic health and safety issues to continue using the building. It's quite a lot of.
Predates a lot of the regulations, current regulations, and goes. And once again, we have a building for which budget to repair and maintain and upgrade is budget. Council.
Sure.
The reason that this building is here, to be a community.
Yes.
Community will come to the community will play this chair and see the chair of the state. So the communities will position to and it's a terrible rainy day and finally comes to Wells who live out for I've just received the region of engineering. This building is in danger of catastrophic failure.
is that Memorial Hall?
Building is in danger of catastrophic failure. I can still remember those words. And there and then in the rain, we need to go a chain on the floor and toss the body out. They have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. I've never ever forgotten that. If we have got buildings that are not safe, we need to do something about that. We cannot allow this. The last thing I ever want to do in my career is throw people out. It was still with me today.
I will never forgive you for getting rid of our backers.
Okay.
It was the iconic building of Kirikiri, it wasn't Hack House.
Well, there's a lot of, for example, people
I
are
know.
outside buildings and they pay for that. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
say, you know,
But-
if there's something wrong with this building,
Yes,
it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. And at the moment, I think council are doing a good Band-Aid fix. And we're working on hence it stays on our action sheet and it's work in progress. But there is quite a lot of correspondence and information there, Anne, if you would like it, on Cherry Park House.
I know that someone's onto this.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, just to add to that, the issue isn't only ongoing maintenance, but it's currently no longer fit for purpose
Yeah.
for the user group. So the pottery group, who has grown twice in size, possibly even 3 times in size, was located down in the basement, has outgrown that space. So they're needing to look for somewhere more permanent. Same with those that use the spaces upstairs. It's just no longer fit for purpose either. So that's why they're looking for a new space. It's not just the maintenance, as council is continuing to look into that as well.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Hello, we have a building.
But thanks,
Yeah.
Kim.
Just saying. Can't be moving.
Chair.
Yeah.
I think just for the record, there should be some credit given to community board member Frank Owen and the committee at Cherry Park House. They have been highly proactive over the last 2 or 3 years in getting this thing, the problems identified. You know, and they're still working with an old building and they're still working with something that was never built for what its current purpose is. But I just think that they've done a great job in sort of getting it to a space that it's stable,
Holding it together.
holding it together.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away the responsibility of us or council or somebody to find them a place. If we're interested in the arts, I'm personally not, but I believe it's a large part of the community. No, well, I have. I, you know, there's a lot of things that I actively do or do myself or whatever else, but I know that art is not my thing. I appreciate it, but it's not, you know. I would suggest that a long-term plan for that whole area, as you know, I think that whole place there, I watched a school go and plant trees in the most inappropriate places directed by staff along the river, which you can't even get a lawnmower in between where these trees were planted. You know, I have to be careful. My wife helped plant the trees, and so we need a plan because I believe that the croquet club has expressed an interest in moving at some point up to right, which makes all sorts of sense. So we need a plan that's for everything, not just Cherry Park House. But anyway, it's have enough. I'll shut up.
It's fine. And on that note, we have a strategic plan workshop coming up. So how convenient. You can add that to our wish list. Cherry Park House, top of the list to resolve the issues. Okay, any further discussion around Cherry Park? We'll call this meeting to a close. I need to move the action sheet, do I?
Yeah.
So I'll move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board receive the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board action sheet update. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Jane. All those in support? Against? Carried. Who would like to offer a closing karakia? Jane? Thank you.
Yeah. At the fire. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Sure.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to learn that.
Has the live stream stopped?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dolly.